Welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter Podcast, your number one source of all things bodybuilding. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. Now, here's your host, Leroy Rollins.
All right, people, welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter Podcast. I'm here. What is this, episode 3 now with you? Number three with my man Branden. So today's episode's going to be probably all over the place, but that's all right. We're going to hopefully share some information regarding what we see people do wrong, whether it's at the gym or with personal clients or even ourselves. Branden mentioned when we just got started here that he's got his notes from his first prep. That is always an entertaining topic. So let's start with how things are going, man. What are you currently doing? Training, nutrition, all that good stuff.
So man, I'm super busy, just like last time. Online coaching and personal training, obviously, right? And doing my own training. I'm taking this full year off and putting on a lot of size and strength, and seems to be going really well. Never really have hit a plateau yet, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
And then still working for Vittle, which is the biggest nutrition meal prep company in Ottawa, right? So everything's going well there, and then it's still part-timing it at GNC and having a lot of fun doing that and meeting people and, shaking hands, kissing babies, all that stuff. So I'm writing a fair bit for Muscle Insider, but that's my one thing that I've that's my own time. They come to me with a bunch of topics, right? And unless it's something I really want to write about now, it's like, I don't know how to find the time.
How did that come out? You never shared with me how that started.
Yeah, man, it was actually through school. So I went to school for journalism. A lot of people think that I went for, personal training or fitness and health and all that stuff. I got all of my certifications outside of school, outside of my first trip to Humber College. So for co-op, I reached out to who was then the online editor. I said, hey, I'm a huge fan of bodybuilding and all this stuff, and I followed it since, I've been 18. And I went to school. I took a victory lap, and then I took a year off, and then I went to school just to make sure, this is what I want. Turns out, still wasn't exactly what I wanted, but that's all good. And she was just like, yeah, well, we'll talk on the phone, and we'll get a feel for if you can, really MacGyver it, work it out, and all this stuff. So, it was supposed to be, I was going to a location and all this stuff. That was what the school wanted, right? They wanted me to go and, work in an office and all this crap. And she's like, we'll just send you stuff, and if you can write us, 1,500 words on a topic, that's great. And, we'll take care of everything, you don't have to drive to Mississauga or anything. You don't have to go, actually interview anyone or anything like that. You Skype them and all that stuff. I was like, this is so easy, right up my alley anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I got my foot in the door like that, and then I was actually working with Dave Burleigh, who did a J in the Life, right? That's when I was in school for journalism. That's kind of exactly what I wanted to do.
Right.
Now it's what Kofi and Two Sugars does on Instagram. You know that guy?
Yeah.
So editing videos and stuff like that. But I was always a really good writer. As long as I was interested in stuff, I can write 1,500 words in an hour, and it'd be great.
Yep.
So yeah, that's kind of where it started, and then now all of a sudden, right, it's pretty much they want me to write things, and I'm pretty selective about it because, like I said, I'm so busy. I kind of stopped editing videos for them as well because they do have someone that can do that, and I don't really need to do that, and it's not like from a money standpoint, I need it at that point or anything like that. But if there's something that I really want to write about, then I email my editor and say, I'd really like to write about this.
Sure.
Give me, a good 2 or 3 weeks to do it because I can't just set out, a couple hours a day now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun, seeing your stuff published and getting stuff published and all that stuff.
Yeah, sweet. Right on. Okay, let's start with your first prep because I think that'll kind of give us some ideas to bounce off of. So, however you want to kick this part off, man.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, everyone told me, and it's good to listen to some people. It's good, to ignore some people.
Yeah.
You can do a show. You're training so hard, you diet, blah blah. You're so lean already. Just do a show. Just do a show.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, for months on end, several months on end, I get 1 or 2 people a week that would say, "Come do a show." No, I don't want to. It's not even. I don't see the point of it. All this stuff. It's not fun for me. Blah blah blah.
Sure.
just like training and all this stuff. So anyways, finally I gave in, right? I was actually sick and tired of people telling me I need to do a show.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, I'm doing one. I pretty much told like one or two people and then my family, I'm like, I'm doing a show. It's honestly annoying how many people tell me I have to do it. I'm just going to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I was already a certified sports nutritionist and a personal trainer. I knew all the, X's and O's really of the basics, right?
Yep.
So I started out my prep 14 weeks out, and I was like, when I started prep, I was like high 6 point something % body fat, or maybe 7.0. Like I was just lean, just to be lean, right? Like, and
sure.
I like the attention of being lean. I like the look of it and all this stuff. And honestly, until my first real off season, I didn't value being like strong and powerful and feeling good and all that crap. You know what I mean? At like 6 or 7% body fat, you still feel pretty good. Actually, you still feel fine. But the only thing is, like, I was so drawn to that look because I'd been an ectomorph for all my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's just like, I don't want to put on size, get stronger. Who cares? All this crap.
That's lame.
So, like I started training for it. Everything went really good, actually, for the first many weeks. I was doing like a push-pull legs twice a week, kind of split, and then on Sunday, pretty much the same thing as I'm doing now in my off season. If I feel good, then I'll still train Sunday.
Yep.
And like I started with my calories pretty high, honestly. So everything at the very start, you would assume, oh man, like this kid's gonna knock it out of the park. Like he started at extremely, really lean. He was in a good like metabolic environment and all this stuff. He didn't drop his calories right off the start. As soon as prep starts, you hear like, oh, I gotta drop my calories.
I gotta drop my calories, bro.
Or like I didn't like crank my training frequency up to like 10 or 12 times a week off the start or anything like that. I was doing really low cardio too. I think like for the first week, and now like low cardio for me is a little bit different. I feel like just because I used to always train at a really high volume, but like I was doing like 20 minutes a day or 25 minutes a day of like moderate intensity. There was no hit or anything like that.
Yep.
And I was eating. Let's see here. I started my prep. 168.3 pounds, I believe. Let's see here. Yeah, and 3,650 calories, not counting any sort of supplements.
3,600, holy.
Yeah, so that, man, like, yeah, it was pretty interesting, and that was, like, not counting whey protein or anything like that, right? Or any trace carbohydrates in any of my other supplements.
Sure.
Yeah, and so, like, it all went pretty good. The only thing was, man, I just didn't have anyone else in my corner that I let in.
Right. Which
is number one mistake. Always have people in your corner. You don't have to you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. You know what I mean? You can't have everyone telling you something and then you automatically, because they say that, applying it.
Yep.
But if you have no one to bounce ideas off of or, gauge your progress or anything like that you trust, you're doing it wrong. Like something's going to happen, especially on your first prep.
Yeah.
I've always been totally self-coached. So I got way ahead of schedule really quick without really getting my calories too low, honestly. Like, I think I could check here, but like 7 or 8 weeks out, I was still above like 2,500 or 2,800. I was in that range, okay?
That's crazy.
And like I dropped to like 160, 159 pounds. I was looking pretty good, still a few weeks out, and like obviously no water or anything at that point, right?
Yeah.
But I thought in my head, I'm like, I'm behind.
Yeah.
I'm my own worst critic. So, you know what I mean? Like, I figured at 7 or 8 weeks out, like I should have lines in my glutes, all this stuff, right?
Sure.
And eventually at 5 weeks out, I did. But then at 5 weeks out, what do? I wasn't seeing any progress because really I was as lean as I was going to get without starting to make drastic changes to my diet.
Yeah.
And I started freaking out, man. I just started doing dumb stuff because first of all, prep brains, there's like people don't realize whenever you get that lean, certain hormonal mechanisms kick in where like your anxiety just goes through the roof. Like you start worrying about the dumbest shit. Like you start worrying about nothing that you've ever worried about in your life, and you rationalize it. In your head, you're like, oh, that's normal to worry about that.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, at 5 weeks out, at 6 weeks out, I would get up and like my feet would just ball up because of whatever reason. I'm so lean, right? And I was wearing like bare feet and I was walking on a cold floor, and I couldn't walk for a few minutes. I'd have to stretch out my feet and stuff like that. I was having intense orthostatic hypertension, which is like whenever you stand up and you like white out pretty much, right? And you're just like, oh, I need to hold on to something. That was like 6 weeks out. But I was like, oh, this is just part of the game, you know? Like, I heard all these IFBB pro bodybuilders I looked up to for so long. They're just like, you got to suffer. And I was like, is this suffering? Like, you know what I mean? Like that meme where the guy's like holding a thing. It's like, is this suffering? I'm like, I'm almost passing out every time I stand up.
Good times.
At 6 weeks out, not at 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out or anything like that. You know, like 40 plus days left of that. So then I was just like, okay, well, just got to kick it in the high gear and just be a man. I'm a robot. You know what I mean? I just got to be like,
I got this.
That guy. So, like, then I started training, you know, I upped my cardio to, like, 40 minutes a day every day. I was already crazy lean. I cut all my carbohydrate meals in half at that point. And this was, like, honestly, over the span of almost over, like, 48, 72 hours. I was like, and I was thinking about this, too. I'm like, and I'm methodical. I'm like, is this the right move? Definitely. Let's just go for it. You know what I mean?
Feels right.
Yeah, exactly. And I was too proud to, like, bounce ideas off of anyone or, like, you know, check, like, hey, do you think this is good? Yeah, your learned experience of, like, bodybuilding for 15 or 20 years. I have tons of people around me like that, right? Didn't take advantage of it. So pretty much what happened was I drove myself for a good old panic attack, like, straight up. I was in the gym one day, 3 weeks out, and, like, I was training really early in the morning, and then at this point, because I'm very smart, I decided I'll just do 2 a days, every day, no rest day, 40 minutes of cardio after each workout, which is very smart. But I had, like, I was doing side laterals in a really cold, dark gym. Our gym is, like, super cold in the morning. This was Coburg Naturals prep, so I was, like, 3 weeks out. It was at, like, mid-March, right? That's cold. Yeah. And, like, in the gym, in Fahrenheit, it's, like, 60, 61. Like, it's fucking freezing. I'm wearing 3 layers, right?
Yeah, totally.
No one else is in there at this time. This was, like, 4:45 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm doing side laterals, and I'm trying to get a pump, I'm trying to get warm, and, like, my head's playing all these weird games on me, and, like, you're getting weaker and all this stuff, and, like, my strength didn't really fade even at that point. But all of a sudden, the walls started, like, closing in on me.
What the hell?
And I'm like, okay. So I'm looking at myself dead in the mirror, and I'm like, nah, it's just suffering. You're a warrior, you know, bodybuilders are warriors and all this stuff.
This is what Arnold
Look down
did.
at my feet and, like, try to, like, mentally adjust. No, doesn't help, right? Like, it still feels like everything's getting dark and, like, closing in on me. So now I was like, gotta definitely leave like, I gotta rip out of here, right?
Yeah,
dude, I drove home, and for some reason I had this, like, overwhelming feeling of, like, I needed carbohydrates. Like, I was going, like, hypo or something like that. Yeah. And for about 72 hours straight, what I did was just consume carbohydrates at no sort of marker at all. Like, I didn't care. Yeah. At that point in my head, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. The show's over. Like, I don't want, like, you know, the feeling of walls closing on me because I'm prepping or anything like that. And, like, that was my first show, too, right? And so I didn't really have anyone that was, like, looking, like, there was no outward pressure on me or anything like that. I'm like, I can just forget this because sometimes I'm that person, right? Yeah. Very few things, but, like, if I'm not, like, totally drawn into it, like, I'll just quit on things. I don't care. I'll just move on to another thing and get good at it or something like that, right?
Totally.
But yeah, so, like, in the span of 72 hours, I put on, of all water, like, 17 pounds or something crazy, right? Oh, man. You should, like, my face, like, this is my off-season face, but it was 3 times worse, right? Really? And, like, I mean, my wrists were, like, there was no, like, it was as wide as my fist here. Like, it was just, I was just waterlogged, man. And, like, for some reason, I was still always drawn to go to the gym. It was really weird, man. I never missed a day, but I was just eating crap, you know what I mean, 3 weeks out for 3 days straight. But anyways, finally I went to my, like, this guy's been a mentor for a long time. You see my Instagram stories all the time. His name's Branden. And, like, I was like, man, do you think I can salvage this prep or something like that? 3 days, man, of just eating like a pig, bro. Like, I mean, I'm not kidding you. I worked it out in hindsight, and it was like 3,000 grams of carbohydrates over the span of 2.5 days. It was like 3,100 grams of carbohydrates. And, like, at that point on my prep, right, for a few weeks now, it had been like 75, 100 grams of carbohydrates. Training twice a day and doing 40 minutes of cardio twice a day every day. Anyways, I just shot up, man. He's just like, I'll take a look at you, just calm down. He's just like, you were so far ahead of schedule. He's like, I know how you are. You didn't realize it, all this stuff. And he's just like, you put too much pressure on yourself. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Exactly what I needed to hear. But then the next message was tough love. Like, he's like, don't you fucking think about quitting or anything like that. He's just like, you're a bodybuilder, and like that was the guy that kind of like reinforced this like disciplined mental fortitude into me, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you're right, Frank. I guess I gotta like drive up and see, and whatever you're gonna tell me, I'm gonna listen.
Sure.
So I peeled my shirt off and I brought my posing trunks and all that stuff, and he just like, as soon as he saw me, he just goes, and I was just like, oh, is that good or bad? And just grabbed my my stomach, and it was like still really thin, right? And he just pulled it, and it just snapped back. And he's like, this is all water. He's just like, stop eating like a dummy. He's just like, do your cardio, wake up early, do your fasted cardio. He's like, the water will come off in like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And sure enough, in like I think it was 5 days later, I was only a pound ahead of baseline before I like had this freak out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At that point too, I'm still 2 weeks out, right? And he's just like, you probably, honestly, it's like, backwards way of doing things. Never do it again. He's like, but you probably salvaged some muscle that you were just ripping through at that point.
Yeah, at that point, doing as much activity as you were friggin' burning the candle at both ends for sure.
100%, and like I'm that way. And there's, I've talked to like pros that are that way as well, and that's why they have a coach. I value the journey and learning from my own mistakes as much. Mm-hmm. But for some people that can't do that, or maybe it's not that they can't do that, but it's not worth them to do that in the long run.
Yep.
Get a coach, man. That's why there are coaches, and it's not like, I've always said there's no coach in this entire world that's like a magic man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, you just need that extra person that has the experience and a little bit more knowledge to just lean on sometimes, man.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And I'm happy that even though he wasn't my coach, like, we're so close in that way that he would advise me as such and, like, really give me sound advice. And just pretty much, that's my rice cooker going off. But just to tell me, like, it's a mistake that everyone makes in their first prep. If you're this way, if you're that, stubborn and rubber-headed, that you're just going to put your nose to the grindstone and not worry about anything else. It's very common. And I was like, I thought I was the only one, man. I thought I was like, I'm the only person in the world that did this. I'm just like, I'm not even a bodybuilder. Why would I ever call myself a bodybuilder?
Why would I do this?
And then, other than that, it pretty much turned out okay, right? Like, there was a few other things along the way that it was just super dumb what I was doing. Like, when I was 5 weeks out, I did like a test run on natural diuretics, and all that did was make me cramp up one day intensely bad when I was doing heavy hack squats. And like, I'm going for PR sets for like at 5 weeks out at like 10 or 12 rep range, and like I'm going up on like the 7th and 8th rep, and I was doing 3 sets at that point. On the first set, man, it just felt like someone had a knife and was just running it up my vastus lateralis, like my IT band. And I'm like in between reps, I'm resting at the top for like 3 seconds, just like, am I tearing a muscle? What's going on here?
Is this going to be bad?
And I'm like, and then I go down for another one. I'm like, no, we're all good. And so as I push up on the 9th rep, and the exact same thing. It's just like, it was honestly like someone had something sharp and was just jabbing it and pulling it up from my knee and my hip.
Terrible.
Like, okay, no need to do that because I'm already so lean. I'm hardly holding any water anyways because I'd already pulled my carbohydrates down so low, right? And I'm doing so much expenditure. There's no intramuscular water there, or there's no subcutaneous water there. But yeah, a bunch of silly stuff like that. But as time goes on, you'll learn. Like, it's normal. It's not normal, but it's normal once you hear these stories,
Yeah, like it's funny you mentioned kind of like the cramping and stuff and like aches and pains. Like my first prep, I remember, first, second, whatever one it was, but I was like the guy that if shit hurt, like I was just, it's crap. Oh, yeah. You go through it, right? Like, doing triceps, like doing skull crushers, my elbows would scream at me, but I had to do skull crushers because that's what I had planned. And I was like, I'd rather break my elbow than not do this one tricep exercise because it might ruin my side tricep shot. You know what I mean? Those are the things, like you mentioned prep brain earlier, like you rationalize like those stupid little things and you're like, nope, gotta do it. Now I'm just like, no.
Even to an extent, I'm like that in my off season, man. Like I don't veer away from my movements or my rep ranges for that day. And like some people like, man, I can't train with you because, my elbow's hurting or whatever. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. It's just the way it is. Like, we'll train another time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
but yeah, for sure. Like everyone has their own little like weird things, right? And I'm very like OCD about my programming and my diet and stuff like that. Like this off season will be like the longest real off season that I've had.
Yeah, same here.
And like it took me 4 or 6 months to get in the groove of like enjoying outside life and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah.
Because like sometimes I think like, man, am I taking this too seriously? Or like then there's other times too when I wake up and I'm like, am I not taking this seriously enough or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's like you always have this weird struggle for. It seems like it goes away for me about 3 months after the stage or 4 months after the stage. But then finding the routine that you like with the balance that kind of still allows you to progress as much as you can, but still have fun outside the gym.
Yeah.
And you're not logged in like all day in the kitchen or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You can still like have a social life and all this other stuff. Like that's what I really enjoy. Like you might, well, if you follow my Instagram, you know that like me and Jake are back together.
Yeah.
Working together, and everything seems to be working really well again. But like because he's so young, there are sort of little things that I can kind of be like the old man and teach him about in a way, right? That isn't
totally.
Diet and training related. And I was just like, you have to always enjoy this whole thing, or else you're just wasting your time.
Yep.
Because if you're really not enjoying going through a prep or an off season or whatever, or you're not making the most out of it. Man, the stage comes and goes, but your life doesn't. Like you got one shot at it, and that's it, man.
Yep.
So like you have fun always, as much fun as you can always, and then you pick a few things that you really want to do well in at life, or you really want to take part in, for your life,
yep.
And try to make the most of those too. Like it just so happens that like me and you and other bodybuilders, we chose bodybuilding, but no matter what, it should never define who you are as a person. It should be a part of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
That's funny. My belief, right?
It's funny you mentioned like Jake. Like how old's he?
Dude, like 4 years old.
Well,
yeah, he's 19 now. He'll be 20 soon, I believe.
Okay, so he's a teenager. So one of the guys that I follow. Do you follow AJ Morris? Do you follow him?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So he had posted a thing that someone. Whether it was a follower or a client or whatever, he's like 16 or something like that and want to know if he should get on stage. And kind of what you mentioned, like, AJ was like, look, man, like, I wouldn't jump the gun too early. You know what I mean? Like you said, you got one life, right? And your teenage years, do you really want to spend eating chicken and rice, or do you want to spend like, forging probably some lifelong relationships with friends and making memories and, partying and stuff like that. Like those are the years when you want to do those things. And it's like, he's like, do you want to spend, 4 a.m. on a Saturday on the spin bike, or do you want to, you know what I mean? Like those are the things that you don't think about. Man.
Dude, like it's so weird, because anyone that knows me, man, I'll tell you right now, I'm the most immature 26-year-old that there is, okay? But like for me, I just want to tell Jake, and Jake will listen to this for sure, but like you said, man, it's always your own choice, and you're always in control. And the last thing you ever want to feel is like this weird, anxious pressure that you have to get on stage or you have to do this.
Yeah.
Or for people that that aren't bodybuilders, for whatever that they're doing, you never want to feel that weird. Never let that pressure dictate what you do. You always dictate what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a form of peer pressure, right? And I think a lot of it is like social media has like kind of expended that a little bit more, because like let's take Jake for example, right? Like I've trained with him and I've become pretty good buddies with him, and obviously working with you, like he's seen us compete, and like he might feel pressure to compete as well. And like I have friends who have seen how well I've done and like never thought about competing before, but are like, wow, that looks so exciting and so cool. Maybe I should do that. I'm like, whoa. Maybe you should do that? Okay, let's back up a little bit.
Yeah. Actually, Jake just texted me right now and just said, hey, brother, just got back from his trip. So, yeah, man, like, I always tell people, too, and I was just like, all of my friends that are my closest friends, not a single one of them would ever dream about getting on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the one thing I always try to reinforce, like, yeah, my Instagram is, like, more of, like, a time waster and an advertisement. You know what I mean? That's a very small percentage of who I am.
Yeah.
But no one wants to see a lot of the other crap that I'm doing, like playing video games or anything like that.
Yeah, true.
You know, like, I love Game of Thrones, but, like, am I going to change my Instagram page into a Game of Thrones thing now? Well, it's gone now, so whatever. But,
yeah,
you know, like, man, I'm a big proponent of helping people do what they want to do, and that's just who I am as a person versus as a personal trainer or as a coach, right? Like, if people are feeling shy, but, like, I know there's someone that I went to elementary school and high school with that was, like, an amazing singer, okay? And, like, she was so scared to, like, put videos on Facebook and all this stuff. You know what I mean? But it was because of that weird pressure now. You know what I mean? Because everyone's on social media and everyone wants to have, like, a social media following or whatever. Like, man, I have less than 1,000 followers or whatever. Do you know how, like, many years, whenever I was younger, I was like, I always want 1,000 Instagram followers or whatever. As soon as I got them, I was like, doesn't change who I am one bit. You know?
Turns out I'm not any cooler.
0%. Actually, I'm even less cool because I used to, like, lean on it. You know what I mean? Like, I got 1,000 followers or whatever.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
You had a little bit of social pressure.
There is a lot of pressure like that. And so here's the other thing. The other point that I'm trying to make, and this is a long time coming to it, but you can't be delusional, like you said. You know your friends or whatever, maybe they're not bodybuilders, maybe they just go to the gym a couple times a week or whatever, they don't diet. You can't just assume that you're just going to get on stage and do well. Yeah. Right? And then also, when you're in prep, you can't just say you're 4 weeks out and then assume that you're in good condition or something like that. Yeah. Right? Like, there's a huge difference in someone that is rational, realistic, and logical in their approach to prep, no matter how good the diet or training or all that stuff is, versus someone that's, like, totally delusional and, you know, half in, half out. It's not a priority or the biggest priority, because there's no way around it. If you want to do well, it has to be your biggest priority for several weeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no doubt. 100%. Yeah.
So, like with Jake or this AJ that's got like a young client, like, no one should tell you ever to, honestly, I feel, maybe it's just my own experience like we talked about at the top, no one should ever tell you that you need to do a show. No one should ever tell you that you can't do a show or shouldn't do a show. That's your own choice. Yeah. And we all have different values that, like, when I get on stage, man, because I'm of my height and my genetics, I'm probably never going to be the biggest lightweight ever. Actually, I won't be, because I'll never compete as a lightweight again. I'll be a welterweight. But it wasn't in the cards for me, right? So what did I value the most out of it? Well, my time on stage, because those are all memories that I make. Yeah. But then also, as good as I can be condition-wise, because that is always, the whole way throughout prep, that's always in my hands. Yep. It's never in anyone else's hands. I decide that. What I prioritize, what I put into it, the time that I put in for programming and all that stuff, that's all me. But for other people, it might simply be, you know, they wanted to have the best legs on stage, or they wanted to prove themselves that they could get ready in 10 weeks and make a radical life change or whatever it is. Or they wanted to get on stage to support someone that is a lifer for it, or whatever it is, right? Like, yeah, totally. There's a million reasons to get on stage. There's a million reasons why you should get on stage. But at the end of the day, unless you're going to be, you know, Mr. Olympia or like a top natty pro or whatever, you shouldn't ever, like, shun anyone that gets on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's, like, a sense of, like, I've seen it, you know, obviously through social media and just people that I've seen around the industry and going to shows and stuff, but there's, like, a certain, like, a macho thing of, like, someone that's, got on stage.
They're dorks. You know what I mean? You're a dork if you're like that. You know, like, dude, oh, man, when I'm backstage, and some people for sure think it's annoying and whatever. Think about me all you want. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. But I'm just, man, I'm happy to be there. I think everyone looks great, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, we all put in this work for however long, even if, some person isn't in great condition or whatever, they're still getting on stage. You know what I mean? But there's some people, like you said, that just with, first of all, we're all 99.9% naked. You know what I mean? Yeah. So whatever. but you stand there, with your chest out, you're flexing everything, just staring at people. And
it's like, come
just
on.
chill out, man. We're here now. Like, it's all done. Whatever's going to happen on stage is going to happen on stage. You can be friendly. You don't have to be this, like...
I lost the vision there.
Okay, there we go. You don't have to be, like, this crazy, you're not larger than life, especially at an actual show.
Yeah.
You're
170. Like, give me a break, bro.
yeah. Like, you might be 5'10", 185 pounds. Like, good, Like... To me, but I've always been. Everyone always thinks that I have this like huge ego or whatever. Like, and it's very funny to pretend that way on Instagram. Like, sometimes I'll tell like in my captions of like I'm a fashion icon or something like that. You know what I mean? And I'll be wearing like short shorts with like this extra large hoodie or something like that and knee high socks. You know what?
Yeah.
It's all a joke, but for some people, man, you can't tell them anything on Instagram. You can't say anything to them. Period. Even if you're joking.
Yeah.
Or like don't freak out, or else don't DM you. Like I've wrote a joke on someone that I thought was definitely like my friend on Instagram. I get a DM saying, "Hey man, why are you saying this? All my followers are going to think that the blah blah blah." I'm like, dude, chill. First of all, bro, I got 1,000 Instagram followers. Yeah. And you got 400. You know what I mean?
I got leverage.
But, yeah. Like it's all silliness. Yeah, there shouldn't be any sort of ego when it comes to that sort of thing.
No, and it's just, I don't know, and it's always the people that, like, will come, first out of one, or those are the guys that get, they come fifth out of six, and they have everything to say about everything, and you're like, okay, slow down.
My personal favorite is top call out. I got top call out or first call out. And it's a 2-person call out or a 3-person call out or something like that. Or top 3 people or something like that, right? Yeah.
Nationally qualified out of 2 competitors.
Exactly. Like, and I have friends too that have competed against people like that or whatever, and they might be great people behind the scenes or whatever, but like you shouldn't, because people are going to find out in our bodybuilding community, and they're going to be like, why don't you make a post saying that, you got top call out when there was only 2 people in there? Like, just say you finished last out of 2, and the guy was a better competitor than you'll get better. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no shame in that, man. Like, I'm the first to admit, man, like, out of any of the lightweights on the national stage last year, I had probably the weakest upper body, right? Like, my conditioning was great, and I probably had the best lower body, but the first thing that I wrote was, I'm very happy with the result. I understand. I'll come back better, you know what I mean? It's not like, I should have won. My legs were the best. My conditioning was the best. Ignore all the other body parts, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or anything like that. Or people that, like, they only go to their friends for, to discuss how they did or how they looked or whatever. And they go, countless people have told me I should have won instead of placing in the second call out.
Here's a quick story for you. So it seems to be, I find a lot of, like, natural competitors. I'm gonna get heat for this if people are listening to this, but I find a lot of natural competitors are more like into the science behind it and are more like intellectual about their training. They're more into the intricacies of it because they don't have what?
So you are gonna get heat for this.
No, but like the intricacies of it. And I had a guy back home, and he had just competed his first show. And he came second or third, and he's enhanced, and he looks okay, right? For someone who's did their first show, he looked pretty good. Came third. I think there was 5 competitors, so he came third. And of course, you couldn't tell him why he came third. These guys, he comes up to me with photos and look at this, and, and he's like, come on, how could you say, like, everybody else says I should be better than this? I'm like, well, dude. So I start going through it, and I, like, pose for pose, I start picking out why he came third, and he's just getting more and more upset, right? And I said, dude, I want you to know this. He goes, what? Just pissed.
No.
I'm like, if you and Ronnie Coleman stand side by side on stage, you will never win.
Yeah.
He's like, no, but like, look at these guys. I said, it's all who shows up. I said, there are 100 lightweights out there that I could go through my Instagram right now that if I stood next to, I wouldn't beat them right now.
Yep.
And he kind of gets all bent out of shape about it. I'm like, I'm serious, man. You're, what, 230? So you stand next to, Kai Green in his prime. Yeah. You're never going to win. I don't care,
thing, man.
Yeah, but that's not the point. I'm like, yes, it is the point. You do you. Get over your high horse here.
Yeah. Man, it's all about who shows up. There's always someone better out there. Like, there's always someone better out there, right? Come on, like, you and I are great in Canada for natural bodybuilders for lightweight or whatever, right? Like, I mean, you've won nationals before. I've finished top 5 in a pretty good class, but there was always going to be someone in Canada that if they did diet for that show or whatever and had a perfect prep, they would beat us. Like, there's just someone like that. There's just such a thing as elite genetics, and that's just the truth of things, right? And I don't know about you, but I'll be the first one to say I don't have elite genetics. Like, I got a small waist, and I have nice quad insertions and origins. You know what I mean? That's it. That's where my genetics end.
Yeah, I think I'm like, for bodybuilding, I'm okay, right? I got a few good things going for me, but yeah, like, if I had elite genetics, I wouldn't be 150 on stage. I'd probably be quite a bit bigger, right? You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. But yeah, there's always people that want to, for whatever reason, they just want to improve or fabricate certain things about why they did worse or how they were better or whatever it is, right? They just want to but it doesn't matter, man. Like, just get better, just do better, and that's okay. And that's like pretty much like all life is, right? You just man, I make mistakes all the time about terrible things aren't even related about bodybuilding, and then I just go, I just won't do that next time. You know what I mean? And like a kid does that, a toddler does that. You know what I mean? And people do that until they die. They make mistakes, or they find out things in hindsight that they should have done. It's no big deal. Like I said, man, if you get on bodybuilding stage, you get some respect from me no matter what. It won't take any respect from me away from what you've done if you say, I should have beat this guy or whatever. But instead of just saying that, man, just close your mouth and just think about how you can get better, right? Like, if everyone made these things, these excuses or whatever, no one would ever get better. Yep. No one would ever change what they were doing. And that, I think of being humble and having a good mindset is like the most valuable thing in bodybuilding, other than elite level genetics. Yeah. Because if you have pretty good genetics, like, you still have to work so damn hard. You still have to have program nutrition and training and supplementation so damn good. You have elite level genetics, you can get away with a percentage of it. Yep. But what you were saying, man, you are going to get heat for that for sure, and that's okay. And I'll stand by you for it, no problem. We go. But I think there's an equal amount, probably, of, when it comes percentage-wise, of people that are delusional in natural bodybuilding and open bodybuilding. It just seems that there are more open bodybuilders, of course, right? So for every, one natural, there's probably 3 or 4 guys that compete or whatever, enhance. Yeah. And so, it sticks out like a sore thumb. If you got a group of 20 people or whatever, and, 5 or 10 of them are, awfully delusional or whatever, then a higher percentage of them are probably going to be enhanced. I would agree with that, but that's just because of the numbers. Yeah. I have never held any sort of jealousy or hatred or anything like that to anyone's enhanced. All of the people, not all of them, a lot of them locally that are in my corner compete in the open stream. And that's the extent of it, and it's whatever. It doesn't make them a worse person or a better person. A lot of them, I've learned many things from them when it comes to diet, training, nutrition, all this stuff, right? Yep. Or supplementation, not to repeat something I already said. But yeah, like, there is, for whatever reason, this, and I've never understood it, man. But there's this weird animosity between open stream bodybuilders and natural bodybuilders. Yeah, it's so weird. Some people, man, I'll get like these guys on Facebook that'll message me or something like that, or Instagram in my DMs or whatever, and it's like, you got a great physique, but like, you're too small. And it's like, hey, man, guess what? Trying to get bigger. Hard to do. Okay, yeah. I'm eating. That's what I'm doing. I'm eating. I'm taking my creatine. Yeah, but like, they're waiting for me to get mad at them. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to poke the bear, but like, dude, I'm way too laid back. I'll just go, yeah, I am small, bro. Yeah. What? You know what I mean? Like, cool. let's see your legs.
This
dude.
is me big and I'm still small.
Yeah, but I've never like I don't know, man. There's the people that are natural that you see on every thread. Like if it doesn't matter if it's Fuad Abiad or if it's Kai Green or Sean Roden even, or any of these people that have like steroids are for losers, or like, oh, you got that by juicing or whatever. Dude, find something better to do. Yeah. Find something better to do, man. I don't care what you do, but there's got to be something better than that. That's my Instagram pet peeve for sure.
No, I agree. I remember thinking, like, this is a while ago, it kind of popped into my head, but it used to be like, if you were natural, you weren't cool. Did you ever go through that phase where it's like,
oh, dude, come on. Oh, yeah.
You're 26, I'm 25, so probably when we were like 21, 22, right? You're pretty serious in the gym. Social media is not as big yet, blah, blah. But like, if you're like, hey, man, do you work out, blah, blah? Oh, do you take anything? No. Oh. You know what I mean? Like, if you were natural, you were like a loser. Now it's kind of shifting a little bit where like natural bodybuilding starting to make the slow climb up to being cool.
Do you feel that though? Do you really think that? Because I think
like, we're putting up a good fight, man. I really do.
I first of all, I don't care either way. Honestly, I don't do it for.
No,
ever.
I agree.
Yeah. You know, I don't care.
Just observations.
But I don't feel that way, man. I still feel like we're looked at like, why you wait? Like, you're wasting your time. Why are you doing that?
Your calves haven't grown in 3 years.
Yeah, and so like like I said, like there's a lot of local bodybuilders around. I'm very close to Ottawa too, right? And like we're just not paid attention to, and that's okay. I don't do it for attention. You know what I mean?
Leave me alone,
like,
anyways.
You know, like when I was in high school, like I said, like on our previous podcast, like I used to do it just so, like, you know, when I played sports or like went to parties or anything like that, then people like, oh, you know, like, hey, you look pretty good. You look more, you know, jacked in comparison to all the other kids, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I just do it because it's a passion of mine, man. I just love it. And if anyone ever like sees me train, you can't train like I do without some passion in it, right? Yeah. And that's Dusty Hanshaws. That's one of my favorite guys to follow on Instagram, social media, man. Trains so hard, he's like, you can't fake passion. Well, you definitely can. You can spot passion too, for sure, especially in the gym. But I don't know. Like, I remember when we did our first podcast and we're like rapid fire and you're like your favorite bodybuilders, and I just named off all these open guys, and you're like, what about natural bodybuilders? I was like, I can't name. Like, I know Doug Miller. Doug Miller's a guy for sure, right?
Doug Miller's a freak.
Skip LaCour was a guy, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, I'm dead serious. I don't think I can name another one. I'm dead serious.
Come on.
Doug Miller's the guy. Doug Miller's the man, right? He's the man of it.
Like, he's probably like if you think, like, if you're in this and you're like best natural bodybuilder, you're probably going to say Doug Miller's going to be like on most people's educated list.
Okay, Lane Norton was one, and I really like Lane.
Yeah, Lane's good, of course. Do you follow Team 3DMJ? Do you follow them?
That's Alberto, right? Or Albert Nunez?
Alberto, yeah. The guy with all the veins.
I don't follow them. Dude, because when I'm training, like, I'm always thinking of, like, the most, insane. Like, if I'm training back, I'm thinking of Kai Green's back.
Like Dorian Yates'
back. Yeah, exactly. Like, and if I'm training arms, I'm thinking of Lee Priest and, you know, Rolly Winkler and all these people. Like, and I'm never ever going to get there. But, like, that's like, dude, if you're a sprinter or whatever, or like, dude, I just started playing softball again. First time, I played my first 2 games. I'm sore as. But on Sunday, I played my first, and I used to be really good in high school, okay? But, like, when I'm out in the field or whatever, if I'm batting, like, I'm just like, you know, I'm still that little kid that's just like, I'm Albert Pujols or I'm Mark McGuire or something like that. Yeah. You know, and it's not like I'm, you know, so whoever plays, you know, softball or whatever. These are MLB players, right?
I got you.
But, and it's just the, you know, the top end sort of thing. Like, whenever people, like, want to race cars or whatever, it's not like they're like, oh, I'm going to race my Acura TSX, which is for sure a nice car. But, like, they're like, I'm going to race my Ferrari Enzo or, you know, my Lamborghini Diablo or whatever it is.
Yeah, I got you.
Or whatever. That's just the way I am. And that's the stuff that like, the things that I enjoy consuming when it comes to, like, media and stuff like that, too. I don't really care about, it's terrible to say. But, like, I don't really care about Doug Miller training montages or anything like that, right? Or, I follow Lane Norton, and he's got a crazy deadlift and squat now, and it's, like, good to see him doing all this stuff again, but, like, I just watched Akeem Williams squat. I think it was, like, 8:15 for a rep or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What?
Freaks.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, I had one more topic that I really wanted to talk about a little bit before we end this. And it's like people overthinking exercises. So what brought this on was that I had a client ask me if they should do dumbbell shoulder press or machine. And they spent 15 minutes indecisively trying to figure out what they should do before they messaged me. So, and my response was pick one and just do it.
Yeah, that's a good, if you're going to give them one line, that's definitely good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for my first prep, everyone's like, Backstage, everyone was like, what'd you do to, like, make your legs, because I was a small guy, but my legs were, like, okay. Well, not okay, they were good. I'll be a humble brag, hashtag humble brag, you know what I mean? I was a shit bodybuilder with good legs, that's my humble brag. But they were like, oh, you're squatting, like, super high volume, or, like, just really heavy reps, or whatever. It's like, what do you do at the end, and all this stuff? And, like, these are all guys that I still talk to, right, from Coburgs. Yeah. And I was like, I squatted 3 times during that whole 14-week prep. Like, back squatted 3 times.
Yeah.
It's not about, the Mac Daddy of exercises, or, like, you have to do these necessary exercises or anything like that. It's about progressing your lifts and technique and at a certain point volume. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so yeah, like dumbbell shoulder press or machine shoulder press. If that was my client that texted me that, I would say, I hope you've already done like 3 sets by the time I reply to them. Right? Like, hope
you better have picked one.
Yeah, I hope you've already picked one. I hope you're not just chilling for 15 minutes. But and whoever that client is, I'm sure they're a great person, and I'm just an asshole. That's okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm back again. But yeah, like, it's not, you don't have to bench press for chest. You don't have to deadlift for back. You don't have to back squat for legs. You don't have to do any of this stuff. It's about just getting better. You know what I mean? So I'm a huge proponent of progressive overload. Like, that's my entire, not just off seasons, that's all the way through prep.
Yep.
And this last nationals prep that I didn't even plateau in my lifts till I was 2 weeks out. And I kept fighting, and I didn't lose reps or anything till I was like 4 or 5 days out, when I should be depleting, but I don't do depletion workouts. I just, keep doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. Like, in some people's frames and bodies and mechanics, they don't fit well for other exercises.
Yeah, exactly.
But you find the ones that, through trial and error or through your own experience or whatever, right, are going to work best for you. And you just progress them until you can't anymore, and then you modify not necessarily the movement or anything like that, but maybe just the load or however you're using it. Mm-hmm. Or if it's an incline dumbbell press or an incline barbell press, you just 15 degrees one way or another, change the rep scheme or the volume scheme in total, and you just get better at that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not about perfect exercises. Like all the time, people are like, well, how do you set up training for your clients and all this? And I just set them up with what they can progress with the most, in my opinion. And then that's their work from there. You know what I mean? So I don't say like, oh, everyone's got a barbell curl for biceps, or like for me, everyone's got to do, 6 sets of back squats between the 4 and 6 rep range or anything like that. Like,
yep.
My training's not set up like that. So why would I be a proponent of that? And I've seen such a good yield in tissue and strength and density in the last 2 off seasons to, try something different. Why would I move to that? If it's not broken, don't fix it, right? Exactly. Like, my clients hear that all the time. If it's not broken, do not fix it. Say, if you like something and you're progressing well in it, keep at it and be diligent and have that mental fortitude to, when it does get tough, you just find another gear. Like, personal training clients and my online clients, they always hear, like, when you get tired, you just work harder.
Yep.
And for some people, like, oh, that sounds like, like a bullshit way to kind of go
about
about
cheesy.
things. Yeah, it's the truth. Like, you never doing easy stuff in this. Very rarely, like, I can't think of a thing off the top of my head is going to benefit you more than working hard, usually.
Yeah.
Working smart and hard is the way to do it, of course.
Yeah.
But working smart and easy never works.
That ain't going to get you anything.
You're not going to get anything. You'll get zero out of that. Working smart and hard, you'll get something out of that.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
No, 100%, man. That was a good final line to finish this.
I guess so. I'm full of them, right? I'm 26 now. I'm old, so.
Man's got some wisdom in that head. Any last words before we cap this off, dude?
No, man. What do you think? Are we still training on the 15th or what?
Yeah, so me and this guy, what are we hitting, legs?
Legs.
That's the plan. So me and this guy are going to hit legs. That's going to be super cool. I'll be just returning from Mexico, so I might be
dope.
185 by then. So
nice. Okay. Don't worry, man. I'm 188.9 this morning.
Woo! Are you going to push up much more?
No. It's been pretty stable and just been changing my body composition for the last month and a half. So
solid.
And my calories are pushed pretty high, but according to my scale, and there's a 1.1 degree percentile of error there. I was 12.8% body fat today, so as high as I could be is 13.9 at 190 pounds. I feel pretty good. This has been like an extremely awesome off season.
August next year is the plan. August 2020.
I don't know. I'm taking my life one day at a time right now. The very tentative plan that I could wake up tomorrow and say I'm never doing a bodybuilding show again is Coburg's and whatever's the following weekend of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, and then probably could be nationals. I don't know. I don't know.
I want you to do nationals just so we can share the stage.
Dude, I'm having so much fun in my off season right now that the plan was. I have no shame saying this. The plan was, and it was almost concrete, that I was going to do a show in the fall this year. But I was just like, if I'm still I'm not at my end result where I want to be.
Yep.
Physique wise, obviously. So I was like, if I'm still progressing my lifts, waking up every day, having a shitload of fun, getting to eat some food in a summer for once in the first time in 3 years.
No,
right?
I hear you, man.
You know what I mean? And then I have developed once again a bit of a social life out of pure desperation is where it came from. I was like, why am I going to change this? Like it's like everything in my life is going well. Why would I put all of this? No matter how hard you try not to stress about a prep, if you're doing it right, you're stressing about prep. So why would I change things up? And so I after 2 weeks of prepping, and then everything was going really well in the prep too. I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm not doing a show. Yeah. I'm not doing the show. And I was like, that's totally fine. If someone, calls me a pussy for it or whatever, that's okay. Yeah. I don't really care. And I'll get on stage again in my life. But man, even this is now my third training block that I've set up in this offseason, and my strength doesn't ever come close to hitting a plateau. I'm not out of shape, even at 190 pounds.
Yep.
I surprised, man, my first baseball game, like I told you, I played 2 of them Sunday. I was as fast, if not faster, than when I was in high school at 155 pounds. I was
perfect.
Dude, my groin hurt so bad from rounding those bases and pushing off my foot. It was like a dumbbell lunge times 1,000 for every time, every step, right? But it's good, man, and I'm having a lot of fun. So that's the tentative plan, and it could change tomorrow.
Cool. All right, well, one day we'll share that.
For sure.
All right, people. I'd like to thank you guys for watching this episode. Me and this guy just chit-chatting about, that was kind of a variety of topics, but that's okay. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. Let us know what you want to hear from next. We'll do this again sometime soon. This guy's Instagram and everything's linked below, so go give him a follow. Dude, I appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do this again, and I look forward to our leg session.
100%, man. For sure.
All right, man. Will you enjoy the rest of your day?
You too.
See you, buddy.